Hello and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. My name is Ben Hansen. I'm joined by Suriel Vasquez.
Hello.
The once and future king. And we also have Sarah Podzorski.
Hello.
Welcome. What a treat. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so glad.
So glad to see
so
you.
Glad to talk about video games.
What a privilege. Also, we're joined by the great Kyle Hilliard.
Oh, the great. That's not true.
Do you feel great?
No, I feel like behind the scenes I've delayed this podcast and then I backed out.
Kyle, you can't reveal what happens behind the curtain. That's for people.
Today.
That's for people the backstage pass tier to worry about.
I mean,
for the
you're
main
teasing
show.
the backstage pass tier for people. You're not gonna get this content unless you subscribe.
That's true.
There we go, that $10 tier. Anyways, the point is, we're here to talk
There's
about.
a fly in here. Sorry, they're gonna be a special guest here for this podcast.
Is this episode cursed, everybody? I'm asking.
This is the
sincerely.
cursed episode.
Okay, great. Well, let's find out how cursed it is.
It is Wednesday the 18th. So.
Anyways, we're going to be talking about Pokemon games. We're going to be talking about Road 96, some other games people have been playing, Axiom Verge 2, a little bit about Back for Blood, Sarah Podzorski.
Okay.
The curse continues.
Emphasis on a little bit.
All right, and then
Is that beta still going on or is that done? Because I downloaded it.
No, I think it's done.
It's done.
I think it's done and dusted.
yeah, but it seems like every other day they're like, "Come play Back for Blood, please. It'll come out at some point, but please keep coming around." So I guess they're testing the hell out of it.
this is officially no more until it releases.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, let's just start out talking about that, Sarah. Like, how much have you played? What do you think about it?
I played through what they're calling the campaign, which is just kind of like I don't want to call it like a roguelike or I don't want people to get on that.
Yeah.
But essentially what you do is they throw you into this story where you're working as what they call cleaners, and your job is to clear supply lines during the zombie outbreak, but they're not called zombies because you can't, it's,
right.
I don't know, demeaning to the
couldn't dream
undead.
of it.
But your job is to kind of like crawl through these different levels. With 4 players, I suggest doing it with your friends. The bots are not good.
Okay, good
They're
to know.
not helpful. So you crawl through all these levels with your friends and you just see how far you can get. There's various acts and various levels, various like difficulty modes. So essentially you're just trying to get to the end. But it's got this weird card system.
Yeah.
Where you have cards that like give you different abilities and you draw a card every time you go into a level, but you can pick what's in your deck. So it's basically like Left 4 Dead, but it's more complicated. They gave it more replayability and more, I don't know, there's just more to it, I would say.
Yeah, and you've been streaming it, so you haven't been playing with people, just a bunch of bots in there with you?
Yeah, no, when I streamed it, I played with some viewers.
Oh, nice.
And the thing is the difficulty levels are insane. Yeah. Because I was playing it with friends on like veteran, which is medium. And it's like genuinely, pretty challenging. Like you can go south really fast. But then I played on the beginner level, which the name I forgot, and it was too easy. Like it was like genuinely too easy. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Like you could just walk around swinging an axe at things and you could make it through.
Yeah, so I wonder if it's just like stick to veteran, but just kind of grind it out. Like go in expecting it's going to be a challenge. You're really going to have to focus on communication with the teammates.
Yeah, and you have to grind it out because you have to get those better cards.
Right.
Because obviously when you first play, like your stuff's not going to be very good. So you do kind of have to it's the replayability is in there.
Yeah, where's your hype level at for this thing?
What I always wanted for Left 4 Dead is like just a very easy mode that makes it like Night of the Living Dead zombies. Like they just don't run and you can just it's just so you can see the map if you want. They should do that for Back 4 Blood.
I mean, maybe it's going to be a living game. They'll keep adding stuff. They'll add your baby mode just for you, Kyle. They got it all.
Yeah,
give me that baby mode.
Yeah. But Kyle, your hype is still...
The levels are not randomized, right? I know you said you didn't want to stick to the roguelike element, right?
In the beta, there was only one map. So in the beta, there was only one map. And how you do a level is you'll go through it. Like you start in a safe house and you end in a safe house, which is where you save and buy stuff. You get like 3 continues to get through it.
Okay.
But...
I like that. Like I loved in Left 4 Dead, like learning the levels, and like having your nicknames for each area. That you're like, we gotta be careful here by the stairs, that kind of thing.
The monsters that's kind of like the random generation. Like on, medium mode, you'll get more of the hard monsters, but where they show up, you don't know. Like, it's different every time. So you can't, like, prep for it or, like, practice and be like, okay, this would be something over here, and there's something over here, because it changes.
Well, that's how it was in Left 4 Dead as well, but it's like, it's just knowing the layout, I think, was always part of the fun of just, like, like getting that, like, understanding where everything is was always, I enjoyed that part of the game,
Yeah. October 12th, Back 4 Blood is finally coming out. And then that's the greatest beta of all, or as we call it, the final release. So everybody can look forward to that. It's going to be interesting to see the reaction when the thing comes out.
Post-release beta.
That's right. Let's see. Pokemon is the big news of the day, though. You can't throw a rock without hitting news about Pokemon. Kyle, did you wake up and watch this weird stuff?
I didn't wake up for it. I mean, I woke
Good.
up. I was doing a million other things, but I have watched it. So I don't know. Does that matter? Is that a detail that's important? When I watched it, I did watch it.
Thank God. So, I mean, they ran down some Pokemon news. Sarah, your favorite, Pokemon Unite. Hey, we got Mamoswine coming there for everybody. And
Ooh, more Pokemon.
There we go. A lot of rejoicing. But then they got to the juicy stuff here, talking about Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl, the remakes coming later this year in November. And just gave another look at those things overall. Like, it seems like a pretty conservative remake overall. Like, Sarah, I don't know if anything stuck out to you about what they were showing there.
No, I mean, they really took a risk with, like, the art style of it.
Yeah.
But I do like a return to the top-down Pokemon a little bit. It is nice to see going back to top-down. Like, I'm kind of tired of open world Pokemon. So that was nice to see. And I think, I don't know, I might actually pick it up just because I miss my top-down Pokemon experiences.
Yeah, as a fan of all things cute, do you get like some good squealy chibi vibes from this? Is this cute enough?
No,
okay.
They're ugly. They're ugly. On like the chibi scale, I put these at like the bottom of like it's not, and it's weird because when you see them in cutscenes, like they're normal size.
Right, yeah.
They get skinny again. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like this is really confusing.
I mean, they're going for the Final Fantasy VII nostalgia as well. Like, here's 8 different models for every character depending on what mode we're in.
Yeah, whatever you're into. I saw, thanks to Ana Diaz, dear friend of the show, over at Polygon, she wrote an article about Chibi Cynthia, who's like the final boss in the game, and apparently the internet has been freaking out about seeing her great return, which I was not aware, apparently, that there's this greater fan lore about her just being a beast and just like impossible to defeat in that original game, which I think I beat that game, and it didn't stand out too much to me, but I'm sure it's tough. But I think it was a sign of the times that, like, Anna's article headline over there at Polygon was like, I'm looking forward to being crushed by Cynthia when Pokemon releases. I just assumed it was a weird sex thing. Not an on, I just assumed, like, this is the state of the gaming discourse. It's like, oh no, it's actually, she's just really difficult to defeat. Okay, like, actually, this is about the gameplay of a game. This is a revolution for gaming coverage these days.
See, the brilliant thing about that, the headline gets to do both things.
I know.
You're in it because it might be horny, but then there's actually other kinds of substance there.
That's why Ana Diaz is the ultimate brilliant diamond, I think, when it comes to writing headlines. Yeah. But I saw fans were dissecting, everything they showed, and it's pretty conservative overall. They have new stuff like, okay, there's the underground base area and stuff, and you can put Pokemon statues in there. And then what do they call these weird things? Pokemon hideaways, where basically underground areas where new Pokemon will appear that you can catch only there, depending on which statues you put in your underground base. Like, it's some sort of like calling card for the other Pokemon to come hang out underground or something. I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I really look forward to checking out the tutorial and then not interacting too much more with that system.
It's, they need something for the back of the box.
They also have that karaoke game, right, where you can do a little song.
I'm actually excited for that.
That's
like
new,
the
right?
Game? Yeah, that's new.
It seems interesting, yeah. And they have like mining and weird stuff thrown in there.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know what the comparison is, but it didn't seem like super conservative to me. It seemed like they're adding substantive new things.
Well, I think what stands out to me is just the art style is surprisingly faithful to the original. And then Hugo on Twitter, remember the community, tweeted at me that apparently dissecting like the map that they showed briefly, it looks like they're not including areas from Platinum in this release. Like, there's a resort area that's not in there yet. So it's like, oh, that's crazy. So maybe that's going to be like the DLC is adding like the Platinum additions to this generation.
That feels like it would have to be free.
Yeah, free content update later on.
No, maybe not. I
Look,
guess.
Kyle, are you going to really predict that?
When was the last time we had an
what we
expansion
live
for a
in?
remake?
Yeah, I mean, this is Nintendo. I mean, people will absolutely buy that. They're still releasing 2 of these games at the same time, Kyle. Do you think they're really going to be cheap on this? Like, they're going to get people's money any way they can.
True.
You can't dodge it. But yeah, it seems fun. I will absolutely go back and play that game again. Back to the Sinnoh region, and they really reveal that they have a Pokemon, a Nintendo Switch Lite, November 5th. That's releasing with the legendaries on there and stuff, which it's kind of cool that it's like a darker theme. It's not like super cutesy, like a super cutesy look for trying to match the theme of Pokemon. It seems like it's a little bit darker, a little more mature for the legendary types or something, you know?
There's potential there, but I like watching that stuff made me think that I just want to go play the Silver remake, which I haven't played yet. So,
are you actually gonna go play it?
I might. Like if I'm gonna go play one of those remakes, it'll probably be that one because I already have it, and I have Diamond and Pearl. I don't necessarily hold as like dear as the Gen 2 stuff, even if this one is maybe going to be a little bit more streamlined.
Really? Do you really think, though? I mean, I don't want to dissuade you from playing Soul Silver. I mean, those are fantastic games. But at the same time, like, you know, you could play a new game, you stay current in the cool lingo. You really want to go back when there's a new Pokemon remake right here?
No, I'm saying if I'm going to do it, like, I don't think I'm going to play Diamond and Pearl when I still haven't beaten Soul Silver. So if I'm going to play something, it's probably going to be one of those.
Yeah. All right. Well, where's your hype for this remake versus Pokemon Legends Arceus, which seems
that one I'll probably play when it comes out. But that's also I think it's within a week or so of Elden Ring, so that's going to be a surprisingly stacked January.
I hadn't even thought of that. Of course, yeah, because this is coming out January 28th for Pokemon Legends Arceus. Yeah. That's going to be
the other
ridiculous.
Collectible Catch 'em all franchise.
That's true. They have like Pokemon mechanics in Elden Ring. That's true. I forgot about that. Oh my God, this is going to be a weird time, a weird stacked January overall. But Kyle, as a Breath of the Wild fan, #1, as you insist on being called, what'd you think about the new trailer, Pokemon Legends Arceus? Where are you landing on this thing?
I am landing. I don't know. What's positive? What's a positive way to say I'm landing somewhere? I'm landing right in the middle. I'm landing on top of the mountain. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, top of the mountain.
You're landing in the hype zone.
I'm landing in the hype zone, squarely in the center. It's the most excited I've been about a Pokemon thing in a while. It's laughable how much they're going for Breath of the Wild.
It's absurd.
Like, it is insane. Like it's almost a parody. Like the trailer is very similar to that early one where they were just showing landscape shots with animals running around. The music is really similar. Like, which is like, fine, yeah, please, that's what I want. So thank you.
It is insane. Like even in the gap between when that last trailer came out, somehow I'd forgotten just how hard they're trying to hit you over the head with the Breath of the Wild influence. And you watch this trailer again, it's like, okay, just the opening shots again are bringing you right back to that, especially like all those majestic shots.
Piano trill is like even in there, you know? That
yeah.
You know, it's... Yeah.
And especially focusing...
Which is, like, again, I'm not offended by it in any way. Like, I want that game to be Breath of the Wild Pokemon. So if that's what if when they cut it together into a trailer, if it feels that close to Breath of the Wild, then maybe we're in good shape here, you know?
Could be. Yeah. I think it looked a lot better than the last time around. I mean, the tech is obviously a lot better. Yeah. The first trailer was pretty rough in a lot of ways. Like the resolution seems low and some of the textures are a little rough here. But other than that, it's like, okay, technically a little more stable. It looked
better. It still makes me pine for that Switch Pro. Like it's still in that territory where there's very visible anti-aliasing. And this is weird because it's like Nintendo is not known as a tech powerhouse, but this is kind of the point where I was like, Nintendo is not the hardware pushing company, but they really could use new hardware.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's going to be probably a big factor when talking about this game. Is like, well, it's Game Freak. They're not exactly the tech powerhouse. They're trying to make the most on this hardware that is a little bit long in the tooth as well. So it's going to be kind of a tough combo.
And I think, this is a game that's going to rely more on being visually impressive than I think most of Game Freak's games and a lot of Nintendo games where there's like big draw distances are going to be cool. Like there's going to be a lot of landscapes to look at. And I think it's going to be noticeable if this game is like doesn't run super well because it's going to be disappointing to the vision of what that game is.
Yeah, but these are still somewhat hypothetical based on what we know. But honestly, like I really turned around. I think I was cautiously optimistic with the last trailer. And then this time around, it's like, okay, I'm getting a better sense of what this game is, and I am legitimately quite hyped at this point. Like seeing things in particular, just like transitioning into combat, not having any big, like smooth transitions into combat, I should say. And just like the aspect of they have like smoke bombs now. So you can like throw a smoke bomb so the Pokemon can't detect you, and you can like sneak up on them and actually try and catch them in the wild by actually throwing a Pokeball at them. And they have things, you know, it's Pokemon, it's weird. They have things called heavy balls where it's like, okay, you have a higher chance of catching the Pokemon if you throw the heavy ball, but you have to be closer to them because you can't throw them as far. Like having some real gameplay mechanics to trying to catch a Pokemon should not be a revolutionary thing after this franchise has been around for 25 years, but somehow it feels like just a sensation to be like, oh my God, new gameplay ideas in Pokemon. We're actually going to have to go out and catch these things in a different kind of way.
I do like that.
I feel like you're racing Pokemon Go here, Hanson, which had a lot of mechanics around throwing the Pokeball.
That's true.
Yeah, that's right.
It and then did one of those.
Closing
That
the
was
app,
innovation,
going
dude.
back in.
I do like that the Pokeball, like a lot of the concepts in Pokemon feel very 90s and like stuck in that time frame of like everything is based on tech. So I like them having to like, we need to make a classic like an old school version of the Pokeball that looks wooden and is more mechanical, but it still fires a firework whenever you successfully
It's just
catch
like
a
one
Pokemon.
little firework that pops up and
Instead of
explodes.
making like a very loud clicking sound, which
Right.
is what I think most things would do, it's just like, no, there's got to be the visual flair. Of course, it is a fundamental to this piece of technology that it fire a firework when it confirms a Pokemon catch.
Yeah, it doesn't have the red glow to it anymore. You got to have something, you know? It's such a weird thing.
The other thing is that I almost expected them to go for action-based combat, and it seems like they're modifying it quite a bit. But it does. I did find it initially disappointing that it is still kind of like, okay, once you do that, now you go into RPG combat mode instead of like when you use this Pokemon, you can somehow issue it orders and have it, you know, be real time or whatever.
I think I was actually surprised by how much they were shaking up the combat. I feel like for years and years now, we've been screaming like, please, Game Freak, do something with the Pokemon combat. And just adding that idea of, you know, Final Fantasy X style turn order to get to see who gets to go next. And it's not all you go, I go. Like adding that dynamic where you get to choose if you want to have a strong attack, which is going to be a little bit slower, or an agile attack, so that you can potentially even do multiple attacks before the enemy goes, or you can do one attack, then use a potion. Like just having that basic turn order on the screen and just that little option for each move here. It's like, okay, this is going to hopefully feel like a new Pokemon experience, which I've been craving for a long time. Sarah, where are you?
I like
Yes?
Never mind. Kyle can talk now.
hey, look, it's the cursed episode. Okay, there's a fly.
You don't want to hear my
I was just
opinion
gonna-
on the straw shoes?
Yes, please. My
I'm
opinion
like
was not
really hung
interesting.
up on
but
these
go ahead.
straw shoes, you guys. Like
Yeah.
you're telling me they have desks and window frames and curtains, and the technology for shoes just ended at straw?
Wait, they have straw shoes?
Yeah, they all have
Sandals?
like shoes made out of straw. They all have straw sandals.
That's absurd. I didn't even notice that.
See, you guys are hung up on the combat.
Right.
I'm hung up on like the ancient Japanese stuff. Like I'm gonna play it regardless just for that, but I'm like really hung up on these shoes.
Not even like the cool new Pokemon? Like, hey, you got a funky version of Growlithe and all this stuff?
I mean, they're cute. I mean,
Okay.
I wish they would push it a little bit farther. In the style of like ancient Japan and stuff. I wish they would push it a little bit. But yeah, I'm mostly excited for seeing more of the cultural environment of it. Because I've looked at so many empty fields with trees in them.
Yeah.
And they showed us one shot of the town. And like, I want more of the town. I want more of like the civilization, because it's supposed to be about how humans interacted with Pokemon I don't know, BC, like before Pokemon.
Before
like,
Pokemon Christ? Yeah.
before
Or BP
Pokemon.
messed it all up, yeah.
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 So that's all I really care about.
No, it is interesting. It's so weird because they've said previously, like, okay, this is a time before gyms, before trainers. And I didn't even realize until I saw people talking afterwards on Reddit about like, wait, does that mean you're not going to be battling other Pokemon trainers in this world? And they haven't shown it yet, which is wild, but it seems like this is definitely, I think when this game comes out, it's going to be seen as a stepping stone to the next real generation of Pokemon. In the way that I think even the DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield, people are seeing that and the expansion of the wild area as another stepping stone. I feel like this is going to be, well, it's a lot of good ideas here, but we really wish there was more than one town. And we really wish that it was more fully featured for the competitive scene or something, because they still haven't mentioned multiplayer in any way. Like they said on their site that there's a trading post in the town where you can trade with other people. And that's all they said. I'm sure they're saving something for future Pokemon Presents or something, but there's still some huge question marks about just what we're going to be doing. Is it just going to be going to that town, talking to the members of the Galaxy Expedition team, getting your mission, and then just going out into the field, doing that mission, then coming back? Like, it might be a really simple thing here, and I don't know.
Like Monster Hunter?
I think it's Monster.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like everyone's
Yeah.
looking at this game as being Breath of the Wild, but it seems like it's gonna be Monster Hunter because you're specifically going out on excursions to capture Pokemon. So it may not even be an open world game. It may just be like you're in that town and you go out into the specific biomes and stuff by like talking to the Survey Corps or whatever I think you're working for, and having execute missions where you're like, go catch these 5 Pokemon, and then this is how, and then like the whole battle mechanics are how you do it.
Yeah, I think you might be right. That's a good way of looking at it.
I mean, have they said open world? Has that been like that? I think we all assumed that, right?
Yeah.
I'm now sort of second guessing myself, but I would be like massive. I would like not even play it if it's not open world. Honestly.
Yes, you would. If it was open region compared to open world. What's the...
I don't really like Monster Hunter. I don't want to play Pokemon Monster Hunter. The reason that I'm excited about that game is the idea of exploring a big open area. I'm not excited about catching Pokemon in a new way. I want to explore a world, and I want to ride Weirdeer around.
But what if it was the first way? What if you were like the person who made the first Pokédex?
Right.
And you could tell all your friends that I was the first person to catch a Growlithe that looked like it was wearing a helmet, but the helmet was made out of hair.
I mean, maybe I'm being hyperbolic, like to say that I wouldn't play it,
Yes,
but like it would drastically lower my interest in the game. If
Just
it's
that you're not like
world.
transitioning between biomes. Like it's still going to be open just because you can't go from like, oh, I'm walking from snow over to grass, which we don't know. That's not the case, by the way, but really that's that important.
I think the open world stuff implies a degree of exploration that might not be in a Monster Hunter game, because in a Monster Hunter game, you're not really like, okay, I'm in this like the snow biome, but I'm not like, okay, I need to look behind the waterfall, or like maybe if I go under here, there's a treasure chest or something like that.
Right.
So if it's structured on Monster Hunter, you are in there to do a thing and get out versus like exploring a world, which I would still be into. I would still play this game if it were Monster Hunter, but I think that's maybe where some of that disappointment would come from for Kyle.
Well, and like I think I'm alone in that sort of like, because I like that like Monster Hunter sort of structure turning me off. I think that most people would be really excited by that idea. But yeah, like the hook for me, the main thing that I've been excited about since announcement is the idea that I could Breath of the Wild style walk from one end of the map to the other, you know what I mean, without having to encounter loading screens or anything like that.
Yeah. So you mentioned your dear friend Weirdeer, which is a new evolution of Starkiller. Yeah, he is the best. And you can ride him around as a mount, but people in the community were very excited to get your take, Kyle, on what you thought about the other mounts in the game, where you have basically Pokemon Jet Ski, Basque Legion here, who of course is powered by the souls of salmon that didn't make it up the stream, because it's some good Pokemon lore that they crammed in there. But then like the flying glider thing, it's Hisuian Braviary is the distinct variation here, and it's just like you got a whole flying thing going on here, Kyle. It's exactly your cup of tea.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I mean they had this in Sun and Shield, right? Yeah. Or Sun and Moon, right? Where it was like you had the access to the 3 Pokemon you could ride as fast travel stuff.
But that's still from that
it was almost like riding. It was like a different take on riding a bicycle, basically. You know what I mean? It was like still pretty constrained.
Right.
I like the idea of like hopping on the back of a Weirdeer and really galloping across the countryside. Not yet called Sinnoh region is very enticing.
Yeah, but this feels more like they're basically mapping mechanics from Breath of the Wild into Pokemon. Of like, okay, you need a hang glider, so we're going to give you a Pokemon that attached to that. You need like some sort of way to get across water, so here's the Pokemon for that. I like that. That seems what that is to me.
Yeah. It's going back to the tech conversation. It kind of stressed me out seeing this. I had that moment of just worrying about like, oh God, anything that pushes this tech anymore. Like, I don't know about the idea of like flying through this world. Like, you know, Breath of the Wild couldn't handle the motorcycle. Do we need a fast, weird deer sprinting around just to push a little bit more? But I'm rooting for him. It seems exciting. Kyle, you mentioned it. It was interesting that like the first trailer, they said, hey, this is Sinnoh. This is ancient Sinnoh. Look at this. And then for the second trailer, they're like, it's called the Hisui region now. It's not quite Sinnoh yet. And so I'm trying to figure out, is that just so they can have like that specific version of like, this is a Hisuian Growlithe and it has a distinct name instead of just pre-Sinnoh Growlithe. You're even calling it a Sinnoh Growlithe doesn't really make sense, but now it's like a whole custom thing. And this is a new area for them to add new Pokemon, add new variants and stuff just to try and make it more exciting than a greatest hits of other Pokemon being shoved into this region. I don't know. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And there's weird stuff too, like the evil Pokemon that they showed for a beat, where it's just like Gyarados going nuts. And that combined with the fact that they confirmed that your character can die from Pokemon. It seems absurd.
You can black out. It's completely.
Yeah.
It's a different.
Nope. That bear tears you apart. Yeah. It's the bloodiest game.
It's permadeath, dude.
Was ever made. It's rated R for some reason. I don't know why they went for R and not M, but.
Yeah, it's going to be, you're just going back to camp or whatever, but just to have like some element of danger out here as you're wandering around, I'm very excited about. Yeah, just sneak around a little bit, everybody. Let's see, other beats that we missed about Pokemon Legends Arceus. Anything stand out to anybody else? Just the shoes, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep, shoes were cute. There's also, there's some dopey store stuff or lore stuff about like, the Galaxy Expedition team is the core team here, and they have like, there are 3 different camps. What is it? The medical corps, the survey corps, and the security corps, and you're working with those people, and they're ancestors of people from the Pokemon Pearl game.
Attack on Titan to a Pokemon? Like, what is this?
I don't know. But what's weird then is like, okay, so it's called the Galaxy Expedition team, but then the evil team in those games is called Team Galactic, right? So this idea that over like thousands of years or whatever that like evolved.
Used to be the good guys.
Yeah, into like the evil team. So, there's some fun lore stuff there. Anyways, very curious to see what that game's like when it comes out. January 28th. Kyle.
Man, you got all in my head about the maybe it's not open world thing, because now I'm like, have they said it? Because there's so many stories that are like a new comicbookhere.com that I pulled up. Pokemon Legends announced a new open world Pokemon game, but then I'm looking at all the tweets and trailers. I'm like, I don't think they've ever said open world.
But
I'm like,
I would be shocked. I would be shocked if
I would too.
But I can see them just messaging wise not wanting to use that phrase for whatever reason. I don't know. It reminds me a little bit of like Halo Infinite has been very much dancing around that idea of like, we're not going to say those 2 words next to each other. We're just going to say a lot of, it's the biggest Halo world yet, So everybody has a different approach. Because I think there's a lot of baggage if you call something an open world game. And especially
legally you can't either unless it's actually open world.
That's right. Yeah, otherwise somebody will kick down your frickin' door. Hey, Kyle, Axiom Verge 2 is a game that I hear you've been playing.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
You skimmed over the fact that they're updating Pokemon Unite with 2 new Pokemon, which I'm sure we're all very excited about.
For shame.
And if you pre-register for the mobile version, you get free Pikachu.
But you can get a free Pikachu anyway, so it's kind of an empty offer.
Well, I don't have a free Pikachu yet, so I'm going to get one when the mobile version hits.
Yeah.
And Pokemon Masters, that game everyone's still playing.
That's right. Mm-hmm. There's all the hits there. Sarah, are you still... Okay, that's fair. Are you still enjoying Pokemon Unite, Sarah? Or do you think it was kind of a flash in the pan to like, this is better than I thought? Moving on.
I think it was kind of a flash in the pan. This is better than I thought. Like I got really into it, and then I just kind of like didn't play one day, and I realized my life wasn't any different for having not played it. So that's kind of how I'm continuing to live. If you like MOBAs and maybe you want an introduction to how MOBAs work, I definitely suggest picking it up because it is free, and you're like, how does the MOBA thing work? It teaches you. It's really good. It's really hand-holdy. It will teach you. Yeah. Have Mamoswine teach you how mobile works. That's the future of gaming. Mm-hmm. Anyways, Kyle, we talked a little bit about it last week, but Axiom Verge 2. You've been playing this. Suriel, how far are you at this point, Suriel? I finished it. Oh, nice. Kyle, your brief take was you saying, I'm a little underwhelmed so far. Yeah, I mean, Cyril, you full on reviewed it for Polygon, right? Yeah. Okay. So I haven't read your review yet, but yeah, I mean, I'm like 3 or 4 hours in. I think my map percentage is like 40 or 50% or something like that. But I am finding myself underwhelmed by it, surprisingly, and maybe it is a factor of me like thinking I was really gonna love it. Yeah. But in terms of like It's a number of like little things that are bugging me. Like a lot of I like the melee focused combat. I don't even know if there is a gun over the course of the game. I don't need one. But like a lot of the enemies that you face kind of jump up from the ground and surprise you.
and it's not fun. Like, I don't like having to crouch to fight a lot. And that is what I feel like I'm doing a lot. And that's something I can get over. But then, like, the other thing that I'm running into is, like, it has this system where it shows you where you need to go, which is, you know, in Metroid, that's pretty common. It's like, it'll just put a dot on your map. Like, you haven't filled it out yet. It's just this floating dot that you head to. And on multiple occasions, I have been heading towards that dot. And then it's like, I'm like right up next to the dot and I can't get past it. And I hate doing this, but on a few occasions I've looked up and it's like, what am I missing? There must be some small puzzle I'm missing or something. And like every time it's been this item that I didn't get that is like totally on the other side of the map that I had no indication that I was supposed to be going over there. And I just keep running into that. And like, I just feel kind of aimless. I feel like I'm not receiving what I need to progress. Even though it is like putting a pinpoint for me to travel to, I'm just like, I keep running into little things like that are just like rubbing me the wrong way. And it's just not really clicking with me. But then there's a lot of stuff I do like the music is great. The style is great. I like the action. I like turning into the little robot, which is where I'm at in the story now, is that I actually like turn back and forth between a human character and a robot character. And I have the ability to like grab onto ledges and pull myself up. That stuff's great and it feels good. But it's just like, it's like sort of zooming out is where I keep like running into trouble. And I find myself sort of just like closing it and playing something else and thinking like, maybe I'll get back to this later when I'm less annoyed by it. But I think Serial, I think you're a fair bit hotter on it. So I would love to hear your sort of larger take. I know you had a quick one last week.
Yeah, I did have one instance where I got kind of stuck, and it was because I missed like a very like you get one ability and they kind of very smartly like tell you where to go next, but then I think it was because I stopped playing then and they came back and they had totally forgotten about the next kind of step in that progression. So I did get stuck a couple times, but no, I ended up really liking it. I like that it feels like it's more Metroid in that it is a lot harder than I think a lot of Metroidvania games early on. Like, I think I mentioned this earlier, but like just going out from a save point and getting to the next location feels very different when you know that you're not going to get anything out of killing enemies. Right, like you might get your health back, but there's no like resources or anything. So you're kind of best, like you're like enemies are just obstacles in the way. They're not like, okay, well if I kill a bunch of enemies in this area, I can go back to the shopkeep and like that. Like all of your progression is based on items, which I think is like a pretty good change of pace from a lot of those Metroidvania games. And I like a lot of the abilities. I think there's like the drone that you get later on is I think a really cool ability that basically lets you. I don't know how far you're into the game, Kyle, but once you get the drone, I think a lot of that game opens up a lot, and you get some pretty cool abilities later. And one thing I do like is that the narrative, I think it actually matches. It's not like similar to Metroid, but it matches that kind of like feeling of isolation that you have from Metroid, where it's not like, you know, in something like Guacamelee, right? Like it is a Metroidvania, but it doesn't feel like Metroid because it's like very friendly and like there's a lot of characters interacting. Whereas here it's like you're kind of in your own head a lot, and the game, like a lot of the text and stuff that you find is kind of pushing you towards it because it's very existentialist, very about like the nature of consciousness and humanity and stuff in a way that makes you think about like, you know, really long stretches of time, and it kind of feels in line with like how Metroid is always like very quiet and kind of getting you to think your own head.
Right.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Like there's like a interesting moment where you're hopping dimensions almost, and you meet this one person who's talking about how it's almost like was it from Dragon Ball, like the hyperbolic time chamber?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like depending on where they are in their world, like time will speed up or slow down for them. And they use that as a way to like live their life. You know what I mean? Like maybe I need to slow down here, maybe I need to speed up here. And it's like subtle. It's not like a major part of the story. It's just like part of this conversation that you have with this character that you meet briefly. That's like, yeah, that's just how things work here. Isn't that weird? And it's like, that is weird. I'm going to go find some stuff. I'll be back later.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think though, I do like it overall, and I had a good time with it, but I think maybe it was playing Metroid Fusion earlier this year, or maybe it's just like having played enough of these. But like as much as I appreciate how much it is, you know, borrowing from Metroid and not kind of looking at the rest of the genre of like how other games have built themselves, it does feel a little bit like, okay, like I've run this route so many times at this point that like, you know, usually by the end of the game you're like trying to like get everything, and at this point like I was powerful enough that I didn't really want to do like clear out the rest of the map and stuff. So there were times where I was like, okay, yeah, this is maybe a little too like, because it is so dedicated to Metroid, it doesn't have its own hook in a lot of times. It's just like the hook of this game is that it is Metroid and it is a really good version of that.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Hollow Knight is like, oh, it's got Dark Souls elements in it, or like Guacamelee has very different combat. So if you like that might get you into it.
Yeah.
So if you're not into Metroidvania or don't like Metroid, there's just nothing in this game for you.
Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you can drop the Vania part like all.
Yeah,
together.
I mentioned that a minute ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, Starkiller, that Axiom Verge 2 is going to be in your top 10 end of the year?
It might be. It might be on the lower end of it, but
Okay.
like I think at this point I like it enough, and I think I'll probably think back fondly on it more so than a lot of other games this year.
And how do you think of The Fly? Do you think back fondly on The Fly?
It's not my favorite Cronenberg, right?
Okay.
He's the director.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Hey, Sarah and Serial, you both have played the great Ace Attorney Chronicles, or so I hear. Sarah, you are a maniac from hell. You streamed it like 17
I was held
hours.
hostage.
What
Ace
the
Attorney
heck?
tied me up, threw me into the basement, and they said, "You will play the tutorial," and that's it.
Did
Wait.
you try pressing the home button? You could just
That
leave.
6 hours was all the tutorial.
Are you kidding
that
me?
first case.
Yeah, that 6 hours
I mean, it's
was
the
all
first
the
case.
tutorial.
It's the first of 5 cases.
Okay.
And
it
by
is
hour
teaching-
4, I was gonna turn myself into the cops. I said, "Look, put me in jail. Put me in jail. I don't care anymore. I'll go to jail."
So it's like
And at the very end of my 6 hours, they unironically looked into the camera and they said, "It's not about knowing the law. It's about believing." And that's when I lost it. Off the rails.
Wait, is this just because you're streaming it, so you felt committed to like, well, we'll see through this first case / soft
I wasn't
tutorial?
gonna like cut it in the middle of the tutorial
That
because
is-
I wanted to meet Herlock Sholmes.
Right.
But I didn't realize I had to earn it.
Well, I guess the thing is that like it is not like maybe not thinking of it as the tutorial and more like the first of 5 cases. It's like the first of 5 acts in that story. Like it's not like a thing where you skip it and then you go on to the real rest of the game. Like it is important. It is an important part of that story.
All right, Serial Tutorial Defender over here. We understand how it works.
I mean, I will say though, like as someone who has played a lot of these games, that first case is definitely like the longest of those that it has ever been.
Oh,
And
really?
it is the most substantial of those first cases. And I kind of like that about it because like the first case is always does feel a little bit more throwaway of like, if I've already beaten this and I'm replaying it, it's like usually fine to skip the first case, but you can't really do that in this one because it's integrated into like, there's a whole arc that runs across the entire game that requires that first one. And I think it's one of the better first cases in that it is interesting. There is an arc, like it has an interesting turnabout. I like a lot of the stuff that they do. Like the whole premise of the game is that it is like 20th century Japan in that first case at least, and you're being introduced, like this is a few years after they've introduced kind of like Western concepts in. So like there's a lot of language barriers that come up between the British Empire and Japan, and so like the way they kind of have like English people talking in the text is like cursive, and it's like nonsense cursive. So it's like that communicates like, oh, you don't understand this person because they're speaking English, which is interesting.
That's fun. Yeah, Sarah, it seemed like you were doing a lot of talking about localizing and stuff when you're streaming the game. Like, is it interesting just from that history of Japan angle?
I mean, I'm such a nerd for that kind of stuff that's what got me interested.
Yeah.
But it definitely wasn't enough to hold me in by like hour 4 of this case. It was getting kind of rough, but it is interesting that the decisions they make and the way they name people are all very on the nose if you know Japanese, and they do a really good job like localizing all of the characters. There is a lot of text. I simply do not recommend streaming this game because when I
Sure.
stream, I like to read everything because I don't want you guys to have to read it. So I read it. And by the end of it, I had like lost my voice because it's a lot of reading. So we definitely kind of, Ace Attorney and I had a misconnection.
Right. I understand.
A really bad first impression.
Think
I do
mean,
think
it's a
it gets
visual
better.
novel, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's essentially
Yeah.
what that series
Yeah.
is. You know?
And you
But
can
the
play it
visual
like
novels I play are voiced. They're all voiced, fully voiced.
Yeah, well, this
Sorry,
one
the budget just
does
wasn't there.
this one does have like a straight up story mode where you like instead of having to figure out like what piece of evidence should I present? What statement? Like the game will literally like play itself for you.
Really?
And, like, it'll like go through like I think the way they just map it is just like inputs. So it's just like if you go to story mode, it'll go into your inventory, like highlight the right piece of evidence and present
Weird.
it. And so like,
weird.
where it's like, where on this diagram like is a contradiction, and then like the cursor will move over to it, and like the game plays itself. It's like actually like I've used it a couple times. It's actually pretty cool.
It's like a Ouija board for getting you to the next spot. I mean, in general, sorry. I mean, where are you at overall with the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles?
I really like it. I like a lot of the mechanics they introduce. Once you meet Herlock Sholmes,
Please, show him respect.
Non-copyright character, even though the character is public domain. Like you do an interesting thing. So like the first case is like all trial. The second case is kind of all investigation with a little bit of proof. But the way that they do that in the investigation areas is. So Herlock Sholmes is kind of like, he is a Sherlock Holmes type character.
Right.
And so he'll make all these deductions, but they're all wrong. So it's like, be judging by this, but it's like he's like onto something, but he's kind of pinpointing the wrong thing. So he'll do like this like literal dance of like, like the camera's constantly moving around and like flashing on characters when even when he's pointing out like things that are wrong about them. So it's like, it's because of his cane that he looks funny, and when he's very clearly wearing an obvious like fake beard. And so it's like, you're okay. Well, Sholmes, I think you're onto something, and then you start kind of doing that whole sequence, like that dance sequence with him, where you're like the camera's swirling around you, and like you're moving around, and it's like actually it's his beard. That makes him weird, and then it's like if you look around, like then I'm going to use this piece of evidence here. So it's like you're kind of fixing his deductions for him,
right?
Which is really cool. And then the other thing they do is they have jury trials. And it's so far it's been mostly for show, but it's like the showiest version of a jury where like right beneath the judge are 6 jurors in the third case, which is where I'm on, and they all have like their like. You keep track of where everyone is at, whether they think the person is guilty or not guilty. And it's like the flashiest thing, because it's like they have these like gavels basically that they hit with their hands that fires a piece of flame into a scale that tips it one side or the other. So it's like everyone knows where the jury is at in a way that I don't think really abides by British law during that period, but is a very like, and all the jurors are of course like Phoenix Wright characters, basically, of like they're very showy. Like one of them is constantly, when they pan to I think this guy's holding a knife and he's twirling it. This lady is like just on a typewriter the entire time and is like totally silent. Besides, like, yeah, that makes sense. The biological deduction. That's where we're going. But then they use it as a mechanic, because at some point, like if all the jurors think that the person is guilty, then it's like, okay, you have one final chance to convince them otherwise.
Right.
And the way you do that is by finding contradictions in why they're guilty. So they'll be like, it's because of his I think it's because of his like the fact that he wore the petticoat at this time of day. And then it's like, he was out for his nightly excursion, says another juror. So it's like, well, you say it's day, you say it's night. So these statements conflict. And then that slowly kind of unfurls, a 12 Angry Men style. So I like a lot of what they're doing. And the story seems to be about like how bad British imperialism was, because a lot of them are super racist towards you because you're like a Japanese lawyer in Britain. So everyone's like, like the Nipponese, which is what they call them. It's like, I wasn't sure what lawyers from Nippon were going to be like, but it doesn't seem like they're too smart. So and like you're just constantly pushing back against that. I'm just like, I know I learned English, but I can put up with you. So I've been enjoying it a lot so far.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's out on PC, Switch, PS4. Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Sarah, there's a game that you streamed on MinnMax's Twitch account called Road 96.
Yes.
The road trip game. Kyle,
I don't even know where to start.
It's weird. So it is the game that's all about like a procedural narrative. That's kind of like the big hook. The stupid shorthand that you could use is that I feel like it's where Telltale would have gotten to if they kept growing and they kept existing, because it's basically like a Telltale roguelike with like flavors of an immersive sim thrown in there. Like, I don't know, Sarah, like the idea of a narrative game where it's like, okay, it's procedural. You are in this country you're a kid trying to make your way
You're a
teen, very specifically.
Teen.
Okay. Teen trying to make your way across the border because this country is being torn apart by politics and strife. I thought it was going to be like this super serious Annapurna thing. No, it's like, it's silly. It's weird at times. It has like a Borderlands style intro. Like the tone is not at all what I was expecting for Road 96, but
it's very much like Pokemon Go to the Polls is how I would describe it a little bit. Like very heavy handed.
Yes.
Very heavy handed because you're a teen and you're trying to escape the work mines because they're putting teens in the mines because they don't want teens to vote because the teens would vote for the good candidate who's a woman, and then there's the bad candidate who's like this bad man who's also the minister of oil. And I'm just trying to get to the border. You play as every level you play as like a different teen, and your goal is to make it to the border. And what happens is you can choose to walk, hitchhike, or take a bus, or take a taxi, or steal a car. You can choose all the ways you get to the border, but you can encounter these random things. Like there's a cop who keeps turning me in. You encounter like a journalist who all she does is lie, very on the nose. There's like police violence, police brutality. It's like they took 2020, like ramped it up to 100 and then tried to sell it to me. Yeah. And they were like, but it's a Telltale game. And I'm just like, but then they're like, it's not America. It's called Petria. And I kept saying, this is America. And everybody in the chat was like, it's not. It's Petria.
It's Petria in 1996. There's no relation. It's not a political game, Sarah, in any way.
No.
Yeah,
that was my question, hearing you describ it with like teens and mines. Like, is it Earth? Like what?
I think it's Earth. It feels earthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's cops
earthy
there.
tones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, are you enjoying it, Sarah?
I don't know if I will continue to play it.
All right.
Post that stream.
Yeah.
There was one point someone just looked at me in the game and they were like, "Are you political?" And I was like, "Oh my god! Like, there's just too much of this already. Like, I play video games to escape,
oh, interesting.
not to like delve deeper into problems with nations and governments and."
But at the same time, like, yeah, it's such a weird tone because it's trying to be goofy and lighthearted about some of those things. So I appreciate that at least they're not being, I don't know, too dour about everything on their end, even though if it is like a lighthearted heavy-handedness, but starting it out, I was really excited about like, okay, so the story's going to adapt to what I do. I can do anything. This is going to be great. So they want me to walk towards this cop. I'm going to try running the other way. And it's like, nope, then the cop just throws you in the cop car no matter what. Like there's a lot less freedom than I thought there was. It's a lot more in that Telltale vein than in the kind of immersive sim vein, which is what I was hoping for with this thing.
Did you ever make it out? Did you make it across the border?
No, I got screwed because I made it all the way to the border and I was very excited about it. And then there's
you couldn't jump the fence?
Yes. Yeah. So I got to the border and it's like, I'm in a cave, I'm in like a mountainous area and there's rocks everywhere and it gives you the option of like hiding your money. And I had like $100 on me or something. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I can store my money. And then when I play as the next kid in this story, taking a different path on Road 96 up here, I can pick up that money. So I'm like, this is great. I assume this is just the ending right here. So I hid all my money and then I went to the next screen and then it's just like some woman being like, you need to give me your money if you want to get across this border.
And you can't go back?
No. And so I was like, no, screw you. I'm going for it. So then I just tried to plow ahead and make my way through there. And then, did not manage to scale the wall. And then I was put in child jail for being too politically woke, I think was the issue.
Yeah, I made it across once and I was like, I did it. This is it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I just feel like when people like, I don't know if the developer was explicit about like our game is not political, but I just feel like what they mean is we don't want any controversy. Please don't talk about our game in a way that could be controversial. That's really all they mean, because I think the definition of political in that context is usually somewhat like the way they're using it is really murky.
I don't think I have not read or watched too much from the developers, but I don't think they're trying to frame this as not a political game. Like it's the same studio. Yeah. It's Dixit Art is the name of the studio. And Kyle, they're the people that made that World War I game with Elijah Wood. Do you remember that thing called 11/11 Memories Retold?
Yeah, I interviewed the director at E3 for that. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
They worked with Aardman on that too, right? Aardman Animation.
Yeah, the Wallace and Gromit folks. Yeah, this is them kind of branching out. So they have, some real world history development behind him and stuff like that. Okay. So I think they're trying to embrace it, but it's just, I think you're right, Sarah. The writing is pretty dopey at times, but it was much more entertaining than I thought. And there's just like weird flashes of interactivity that I wasn't expecting for the style of game. Like, okay, you're camping out with a trucker, you're going across the country, and then he has you go make his favorite drink in the back, and you go in the back, and it's like then this weird slide puzzle in his fridge of like rearranging
there's cool,
things.
like mini games.
Yeah.
I had to play Bella Ciao on the trombone.
Right.
Was one of the first things you have to do, and that was pretty fun. But it just made me kind of feel like a bad person. All I learned is that I'm absolutely cutthroat. Like, do not stand between me and that border. Like, I threw somebody under the bus. I threw my fellow teens under the bus, and then I realized there is a karma system in the game. Maybe that was a bad choice.
Do you think, like, how did that work then? Did you just like trip them and the police got them and you kept sprinting towards the border yourself?
Well, we were like in the back of our fake parents' van, and a cop came up, and I was like playing cool. I was like, yeah, I'm just a chill teen in the car. And the other girl was like, I hate the cops. And then I was like, get out, Zoe. You're fired. You're no longer in the van. And then we drove away, and she went to prison.
Cool. Yeah, that works out.
So when you kick her out, they tell you like that lady eventually went to prison because of what you did. Like
you don't know. The nice thing is every teen is a little bit later on in the story. So like you play further and further closer to election day. Each teen you play is a little bit closer to election day. So the choices you made as your first teen will affect the things that happen to you as you pick different teens. So that's kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
But there's like 3 choices. There's like the fist, which is like action, the vote, which is voting, and hobo on a stick, which is, fuck it, I'm out of here. And I keep picking hobo on a stick. Like I keep picking hobo stick. I'm just trying to get across the border.
Yeah, do what you gotta do. It's a cool little thing. I'm glad this game exists. I'm curious to see what Leo thinks about it, because I know he was really looking forward to it. He's a sucker for any procedural content, and the idea of like this procedural story is interesting, even if, it's a little bit more in the Telltale mold than I was expecting. But Road 96, it's on PC and Switch. It's interesting this year, just the bubbling up of these procedurally narrative games. Like, I don't know if any of you have checked out Wildermyth. Came out back in June, and I definitely want to play more of it. But the best way to describe it is it's a procedurally generated narrative tactics D&D game, which seems like a lot, but it's PC only right now. And so you have a certain number of characters. They're going to be randomized to some extent. And it's just a good lesson for if you only include a couple key ingredients, you can really connect to these characters. It's like, okay, I have this character, and you have the option then of, because it's all procedurally generated, it's all random, exactly what's going to be popping up. But like, okay, this character has the option of going to investigate this fountain. Yes, I will go investigate the fountain. Okay, now the fountain turned this character blue. Okay, now throughout the rest of this campaign, this character will be blue. I have to live with those consequences. Or like, okay, this character over here was distracted because it saw a herd of centaurs running through the forest. Do you want to follow them? Stay too close, stay far away. So there's all these little options as you go along, and it can have like real consequences for your characters. There is permadeath in it as well. And then in the combat with the tactics, there's also consequences to those things. So it's a really cool D&D simulator that I want to go back to. I know that a lot of people love it a lot. Mike Mahardy over there on Fire Escape Cast has been raving about it. But yeah, it's called Wildermyth, and I need to definitely play more because I like all the ingredients there. Tactics I'm not crazy about, but the idea of having permadeath and like having these novel twists on these characters as a way to connect you to the story. Saying on Serial's getting Mike Penced by this fly in a way I've never seen before.
I know why it likes me so.
Yeah, well, you're the only thing living in that house, so I guess that works. Anyways, Wildermyth. I want to talk about it again in the future. Kyle, would you like to clap on out of here, dude?
I would love that. Thank you for giving me that option. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye, Kyle. I love you. Janet Garcia, otherwise known as the new Kyle Hilliard. Welcome to the podcast.
What an honor.
Yeah. Let's see. What's your favorite part about being Kyle, do you think?
How much I appreciate gliders in video games, I think.
Yep. Number one thing is loving gliders. You know what I love is people that go over to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's to help support this whole indie operation. And Get a load of this. I know I shouldn't say this right now because it's cursed, but look at this. Hey, Lucas, a fellow patron, wants you to check out his YouTube channel called Fatal X Blade. So head on over to YouTube, type in Fatal X Blade with 2 spaces, Fatal space, X space, Blade. That's so confusing to read out. Anyways, his YouTube channel is primarily focused on highly edited reviews on the newest games. Each review features a short parody at the beginning of each video. Currently, he's working on a review for Assassin's Creed Valhalla while waiting on Aliens Fireteam Elite and Psychonauts 2 to come out at the end of the month. So head on over to check out some of his videos, subscribe to the channel, and drop him a comment. That is Fatal X Blade. Just jump over there and leave him a comment that says, thanks for supporting MinnMax in a big bad way. Thanks, Lucas. Also, the wonderful folks at I Am 8-Bit want everybody to know about Dust Biters. There's a Kickstarter going on for this 2-player card game called Dust Biters. And I don't know how often you two or anybody here has tried to find like a 2-player tabletop game. Surprisingly difficult to find a great 2-player tabletop game. This one is really excellent. I know that they're supporting us, but genuinely, I love this game a lot. Like, we went on a big trip to Philadelphia over the weekend and brought it with, because like, well, if we have any downtime, we should play more Dust Biters. It is from a dream team of game developers, people that worked on Genital Jousting, Minute, Nuclear Throne, Sludge Life, Disc Room, High Hell, and they partnered with I Am 8-Bit, and their description is that Dust Biters is a 2-player showdown that's light on rules, but deep in strategy, allowing infinite ways to creatively slip out of tough situations or destroy an opponent or both. There's no math, dice, or tokens to keep track of. Every maneuver and act of sabotage unfolds through Dust Biters' hand-drawn deck of 21 different cars, bikes, and horses. It's basically a post-apocalyptic convoy simulator where you're laying out these cards. Each person has their own cards, and each card has its own rule about, okay, this can destroy the card in front of it, this one can destroy 2 cards to the back. So it's a lot of just little card logic as you're traveling through this post-apocalyptic convoy and cars are blowing up left and right. You get the theme, but it's very fun. So you can check that out at dustbiters.com and basically just buy a copy there because it's fantastic. And you can go to I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store and use the promo code CATFISH, all one word, CATFISH, for 10% off everything on their online store. And Janet, get ready for this. Because I Am 8-Bit is so generous, they ship out a prize each and every week to the MinnMax community, whoever has the best question of the week. And this week, they are shipping out Creature in the Well on Nintendo Switch, the physical edition of Creature in the Well. Name another podcast that ships out a physical Switch game. I dare you. Name one. You can't name one. So thanks to I Am 8-Bit, and you can help support them by going to check out their online store. So all right, we're going to remember our favorite question of the week, and that person wins Creature in the Well for Nintendo Switch. All right, ready to go, Serial?
Yes.
Goes a little something like this. Dudley Kyle Lawhorn writes in and says, hey, everybody, what are some games that you know are fantastic and want to play desperately, but you just do not have the skill set required to play them? I've been trying for a week now to get through Hollow Knight, but I just don't think my platforming abilities are up to snuff to make any real progress. Brutal. This is about every game, I think, for me. I really...
It's doing the show really hard.
Yeah. I feel like, especially not playing like NES games and Super Nintendo games growing up, I think about it every once in a while, like old NES games. There is just a block in my mind where I assume it is physically impossible for me to beat any old game. Like I have to like save scum my way through something like Mario 3 just to try and seem like a cool gamer person. Am I alone?
Wow, you really just threw it back there. I was going to say like Sekiro or like the Dark Souls, but you're so concerned about not being able to play old games?
I mean, it's new games too.
It's okay.
I guess it's just okay to let the past die. Is that the lesson here?
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't made for you.
Thank you. That's the takeaway.
It wasn't. Don't feel bad, because I used to feel bad about that.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
Whereas stuff like Sekiro is made for all of us, and we should all beat our head against the wall until we beat that final boss. Is that the lesson?
I mean, once you get the mod that gives you the super easy mode, then yeah, it's made for everybody.
Right, right.
And that's a totally acceptable way to play it. I feel like for me, I tend to like, I know that my biggest example is probably Outer Wilds, which is a game that I played for now. I thought, oh, this is interesting. But I knew what that game was going to look like for me because I'm really impatient. And I think that is a skill that you need to play that game. So I knew that if I was like in a puzzle where it's like, A, you have a time limit on how long you can spend on this planet solving this puzzle, and B, it's kind of be one of those puzzles where it's like part of the satisfaction is not looking anything up. And like the whole point is solving all these puzzles under a time limit. And if you fail, you have to go back to that planet over again. I knew that was not going to be a thing that I was going to put up with for long. So as much as like when everyone says like, yeah, Outer Wilds is great, like I will totally trust them on it. I just don't think that like that game requires an amount of patience that I just don't think I have.
I love that.
I just can't believe you have the patience for Ace Attorney. But
because all you do is read. I don't have to figure anything out. Look, when they add story mode to Outer Wilds, I will 100% play it.
That's going to be the expansion.
That's the big content they add. They add a planet that just does itself, like solves itself in front of you.
That
you
sounds
just read.
Perfect.
That's it. It's a reading planet.
Yep.
For me, it's competitive shooters is my like white whale right now. But I also like am a big believer in like working through something if you want to get like good enough to play it. I don't think it's necessary, especially if you're just like a fan of games and you can just kind of play whatever you want. But given our field, I really try to be able to form an opinion on everything. So I'd like to get into that space. It's just like a lot of work and like it's all twitchy and then like I gotta get a mouse and I don't want to do all that right now. So it's low on my list. But I think barring legitimate physical limitations, given enough time, anyone can get anywhere with any game.
So you're saying that my mother could beat the final boss in Sekiro? Going back to an old question.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a game. Plenty of people have beaten that aren't like pro level gaming athletes or something.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Hanson, would it count though? Okay, if she somehow figured, like of her own volition, without any outside help, figured out how to mod the game so that the game became super easy to play, and then installed that mod on PC and played through it that way.
The idea, this is going back, feels like years on this podcast, but no, the idea that she's never played a game in her life. I think I handed her a plastic guitar once for Rock Band Beatles, and I think she like banged on it a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah. No, but the idea, she would have a better chance of beating the final boss in Sekiro than she would of modding the PC build to get an easy mode.
I'm just saying, does that count if she were able to do that?
But she'd have a better chance of programming the mod herself. This is confusing. I love my mother dearly. She's a wonderful, wonderful person.
That's all I'm hearing.
Yeah. But Janet,
she does it all.
She is very impressive. But Janet, I'm with you. Like the same way I feel bad about missing out on like the old platformer skills, I think about it all the time that I didn't play Modern Warfare when it came out. Like I loved Halo 1 and 2, and then I took a break from gaming in a pretty big way, like towards the beginning of college. And I feel like, especially with Call of Duty 4, with Modern Warfare, that's where everybody like really tripled down on their first-person shooter skills. And because I missed that, I have this stupid block in my head that I can never catch up to anybody when it comes to shooters. And you're right, that's not fair. I can do it if I really wanted to, right?
We should both just go in and just like get good at it for like New Show Plus. Like one day.
And stream it so I can watch.
Okay, yeah, sure. and laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Ian Sweetage writes in and says, hello, Sarah Podzorski. If you were to pick my question for question of the week, would you like to have this insert name of this week's prize here from our good friends at I Am 8-Bit?
I'll take the free game.
Come on, Ian, that's not cool. Come on. Hey, Sean Mason writes in and says, hey, CLCs, last Friday, a new couple moved into the house next door to me. After a few days, I decided to go over and introduce myself, which, by the way, Sean, that is a very cool, bold move. Can you imagine? Sarah, you just moved into your house. Can you imagine doing that move?
No.
Yeah, it'd be impossible. I mean, do you know your neighbors at all?
I do, but that's because they have introduced themselves to me.
Okay.
They are all very friendly, and like I don't know how to tell them that I sit in my attic and play video games for most of my day.
That when I never interact with you.
Okay. Yeah, they're all very normal people.
You can't imagine. Well, hey, Sean introduced himself, and to my surprise, he says, what did I see when they invited me into their home? An entire mantle decked out in various Halo items. Their shrine, as they called it, had every collector's edition, various Halo action figures, posters, signs, etc. It was truly a sight to dazzle at. So my question is, what is on your video game mantle/shrine? If you don't have one, what would you put on it? I guess mine is just like the shelf behind me, which is going to be completely out of focus for everybody, thanks to our cool fancy cameras. But let's see, I have Disney Infinity figures, a bunch of toys I got in Japan, a Coral Reef CD-ROM from the early 90s that's sealed. That's about it for me. Does anybody else have a shrine?
have like a
I wouldn't call it a shrine.
Well, come on, you gotta have some.
All the amiibo
pride.
behind you, Cyril.
Yeah, I was looking at those.
Does this count? I guess then this thing. Yeah, with all my amiibo.
The amiibo printer collab.
It's not
You
in
can scan
honor
your
of
amiibo on the
anything.
printer.
Because like a shrine honors someone, right? Like it's not honoring any specific thing other than the fact that I spent money on amiibos, I guess.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, it's not just. You're right. It's not just what we have like on our table.
Yeah, it's not
it
like
needs
a
to be
display
like
of things other than like. I guess if you want to come back to it, it's like I like all these characters, so this is like they're all mini shrines for the fact that I like these characters, but it's like it's not in honor of anything. It's specific.
Yeah, my T-shirt isn't a shrine to every company on it. You know, like a shrine. You're right. We should be more strict with a shrine. It needs to be like honoring one focused thing.
It's funny. This is where we get serious. This is the one sticking point. For me, I guess it's this little. It's only a little square, so I feel like it's a starter shrine. You know. But my Jack and Daxter collection, where I have all the limited run collector's editions of Jack 1, Jack 2, Jack 3, and Jack X with the little figurines. And then I have I have the game collection on PS3. I have the games individually on PS2 and from Fan Gamer. I was gonna say Fan Bite, but that's an outlet. From Fan Gamer, I got the vinyl of the soundtrack, and it's like, it has such cool art. And no, I don't have a record player. I'm one of those people that has like vinyls and no record player, but I'm gonna get one at some point. And then it's gonna be this, and then the Frank Ocean album. The only two vinyls I have. The listening party is going to be wild, so can't wait for that.
I just realized I'm staring literally at a shrine. I'll go get the pieces. Okay, Sarah, you talk about your holy shrine, please. Thank you.
So what I have, this is show and tell. I have like my first ever Game Boy that I've been carrying around since I was like 6. So I have my Game Boy. I have like my favorite games. I have a extra large DS that I took from the A4 offices that I'm borrowing. And then I have just like here's a ticket to the Video Game Awards, like here's some tickets to an Undertale concert. Like it's more of a shrine to me actually, and how very interesting I am as a person. And then just very collection of pins that I've collected. So yeah, that's mine. It's work in progress.
So I realized that I accidentally created a shrine to Jurassic Park on
The tracks.
Yeah, on a shelf right over there. So I got the Barbasol can, the stupid Ian Malcolm Funko Pop, which I don't really like Funko Pops, but I think I got that.
You don't got it. You're among friends. It's okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let's see.
This is an Android family.
I got, let's see, Alan Grant. I have my media pass from preview coverage for Jurassic World Evolution. I have a Universal Studios Jurassic Park thing with my name on it. And then I have an inboxed Ellie Sattler action figure as well. Also this other weird dinosaur thing that I found at a garage sale. So that's what it is, Sean. That's how you create a Jurassic Park shrine, is all the good ingredients.
And one unrelated thing.
That's right. Hey, Robert Key writes in with a similar question. He says, what's your least favorite shrine? No, he says, hey, Ben and gang, Game Informer Winter 2018 intern Robbie Key here. Hi,
Hello,
Robbie. He says, I'm extremely blessed and got engaged last week. Quit bragging, Robbie. Congratulations. My now fiance and I have been building a house, which will include my very own game room, and is the part of our home I admittedly am the most excited about, of course. In your current gaming setups, rooms, etc., what are some things you love about your respective spaces? So forget the shrine business, just gaming spaces. What are some good do's that you'd recommend for other people?
4-monitor streaming setup.
4-monitor?
Thing I have 4 monitors. It kind of loses its cachet when you find out I share this desk with my boyfriend. But before you knew that, I sounded like I had a very good thing going for me.
That's
before
true.
You find out 2 of the monitors are his, we combined our desk and like computer parts and stuff. But yeah, I love it. I use one for gameplay, one for Streamlabs OBS, one for Discord, and then one for Chrome and stuff. So I can like see everything. It's very content specific, but I like that element of it. And then in the past, it's super, and I know some people might get offended because you might live in a space like this, but I think it's very ugly looking. But in the past, I had a living room with 2 TVs.
Right.
So me and my boyfriend could console game at the same time.
Yeah.
That's
and it looks dumb, but it works. And I'm like, you know what? This doesn't look good. And I'm okay with that today, you know? And I've seen other couples try to do it. Like I've tweeted out like, hey, how do y'all console game with like your partner? And every iteration is just like a different form of ugly. And I'm like, you know what? That's okay. It's pretty awesome when you use it. So that can be fun.
Yeah, I'm jealous. It does seem fun to have like that side-by-side thing so you can just play games together and like look over to see where the other person's at. It's kind of like your own personal extra Twitch stream in the house, right? It's just like, oh, I'm going to learn about this other game while I play my game. I think it'd be cool. I'm jealous of your setup. Sarah, you got a similar deal?
I mean, the issue is if you're on like a Discord call with somebody else, you can't sit next to them or else you'll echo. So it's two separate offices is what I'm gonna have to do. Like, do not invade my space.
Wow.
Yeah, two separate. Get out of here.
Okay.
But I don't know. My setup's like it's not like, what do they call it? Like PC master race, like really cool. Like if you from here, it looks really good. But if you saw like what I was looking at on my desk, you'd be like, what the hell?
Uh-huh.
Like, what is wrong with her? I have a bunch of controllers. I have some chapstick. So don't get too hung up on, what it looks like.
I also have the same thing.
Wow, everyone's on top of this. Yeah, I don't know. Just make sure it's cozy, Robert. That's the key. And
get a good chair.
Yeah.
That is really all that matters.
Don't go for some gaming chair, honestly. Ignore the fact that I'm sitting in one right now. But don't be lured in by that idea. Just get a good, comfy couch more than anything, right? That's what you should be looking for.
Or a desk?
Well, I think he's...
Oh, for like a gaming setup in general. I always assumed it was like for... Okay.
Yeah, I think he's probably talking about like a full room, probably more of like a living room console gaming type space, I would imagine, but just make it cozy. Let's see. Manic Pixel Dream Boy writes in. Hello, Manic Pixel Dream Boy. Nice for you to be here. He says, "Hey everybody, I was reading up on the most played video game music on Spotify, as I recently started getting really into that scene. Anyway, let me tell you, I was shook by what I saw. I've included the top 10 most played video game songs on Spotify. What do you believe makes the list? Not your personal favorites. What do you think are the legit top 10 songs played on Spotify?" Whew. These are...
Whatever the main Zelda theme is, I forget the name of it.
Name my personal favorites anyways.
Yeah, let's see.
Is there anything from Wind Waker? Is there anything from Legend of Zelda Wind Waker?
Okay, there's nothing from the entire Zelda series here.
No, there's no Nintendo on there. Because Nintendo doesn't put this
you're right.
Oh, that's true.
They don't give it up.
What is it, like
Something from
Halo
Undertale.
stuff?
That Undertale stuff.
Oh, Undertale. Ooh.
Solid guess, Janet. There is no Undertale in the
There's
top 10.
Halo.
Really checking
Wow,
out
good
here.
Some
job.
Halo
Sarah,
stuff on there.
Halo 2, Halo, the Mjolnir mix
Shock.
by Marty
Absolutely
O'Donnell.
shocked.
That is number 10. That's at 23 million plays.
Did they make the Fortnite cover of that one Kanye West song? The one that we
Chug Jug?
The Chug Jug?
Chug
Yeah.
Jug?
Nah, Chug Jug's like all in the streets. Like that ain't gonna be on Spotify.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that were on Spotify, I feel like that would be the number one.
I feel like it would be number
I
one
want to
as well.
see the YouTube.
I think it is on
rankings.
Spotify actually,
Oh, really?
but I don't think
For
it's
this,
probably not on
over-
the list.
I bet
There's also
the-
a lot of covers of stuff.
Yeah, I bet the YouTube views are similar. I don't know what like the most listened to video game song on YouTube is, but let's see. There are, out of the top 10 here, 4 of them are from one game, which is really interesting, including the number 1 song by a mile is from this game. Obviously, huge game. I love the soundtrack, but it's like a very
Minecraft?
Yes. Yes, the Sweden song from Minecraft, which is just like that starting like dun, 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 like that song is at 77.5 million views, or I'm sorry, listens, and it's also number 2. Number 3 is Doom Rip and Tear by Mick Gordon, and then there's some Last of Us in there, and Assassin's Creed 2 Ezio's Family is number 9 at 25 million, but it's absurd.
Aw, I'm surprised to see Assassin's Creed in there. I just feel like no one, not to say that the OST isn't good, but I feel like that's not as talked about.
Yeah, maybe it was. I think for the older ones in particular, like Ezio's Family for Assassin's Creed 2, I think it was definitely the heyday, whereas now it seems like people mainly talk about good Assassin's Creed music if it harkens back to Ezio's Family in some way. All right, thank you. Tom Blackburn writes in and asks, what mythologies would you like to see explored in games? Greek and Norse are pretty played out at this point. Yeah, we probably have had our fill for Greek and Norse stuff, right?
Aztec and Mayan.
Yeah.
I'm Mexican, so I think that'd be cool. I know there is that one upcoming indie game. Oh, I forget the name of it. But
Like the temple run?
No. It's like, I have no idea. I'll try to look for it, and if I find it.
People, isn't it?
It's by, you know what? It's by the people that made a game right before that was also based on Mexican lore, and it had to do with like running specifically, and it was kind of a platformer, and it wasn't that good. Mulaka, the people that made Mulaka are making another game that is also kind of pulling on that kind of lore. So yeah, I enjoy those kind of stories, and I mean, as much as I have both gameplay and cultural qualms with Guacamelee, I thought it was really beautiful when they had like the Arceus like as the bosses. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
So I feel like stuff like that would be really fun to explore more.
Yeah, it is in this weird spot where I'm kind of in that same camp of like, oh, it'd be fun to have, more Native American myths and stories worked into games. And like, being in Minnesota, it's like, oh, some like Dakota myths or something would be great. But then I think everyone's just like, I don't want to go near that. Like if we don't have a native development team, like you can't touch it with a 10-foot pole, which obviously there's a larger conversation about where the world's at with that stuff. But I'm trying to think even like, Chinese mythology, I think is cool, but it also culturally, I feel like falls in this camp of if someone puts like Chinese mythology into their game, everyone's like, okay, placating China. You want to be big in China, so that's why you're doing that. Like Age Mythology, they released a new, race years ago when they made that version on Steam, and they added the Chinese mythology, and that was everybody's take. It's like, oh, there's so many cool mythologies to pick from, but you went for this one just for the marketability. But it's like, oh, it's still objectively really cool and interesting to learn about.
I think Chinese mythology has had like a few like pretty prominent kind of examples, because like the entire Dynasty Wars series takes place within Chinese mythology, which is kind of vague, but like the Total War game, the Three Kingdoms, but it's always it is always interesting games that like are just kind of miss me in terms of like, okay, I want like a specific game that I also am into the structure of the game versus something like, oh, like the Total War games are great, but like they're just not for me. I would just love to see like someone tackle that Three Kingdoms mythology in like a genre, in like an action game genre or something like that, something more narrative driven. But although I will totally cop to the fact that there's probably a ton of people who are like, yeah, the Yellow Turban Rebellion and the Three Kingdoms stuff that is overexposed in games at this point.
Yeah, whereas then, other mythology, maybe, less Chinese history, but then, you think of like Journey to the West, like that's got enough placement throughout the history of video games here with the amount of Dragon Ball games and then Enslaved and all that stuff, where it's like, they're touching on it every once in a while.
I was really looking forward to In the Valley of the Gods by Campo Santo. I had my heart set out for that game because it's based on an archaeologist who finds themselves researching ancient Egypt, and you're kind of in like the 1930s, so it is a little vintagey and it looked really cool. But I don't think it's in production anymore, and it just breaks my heart because it looks so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see more, like, I would love to see more of the artifact mythology. I think that'd be really cool since they shifted over that team over to Valve.
Yeah, I mean, Egyptian mythology, is that also played out? Like, it seems like that's probably where God of War is going next, because I know they're debating between Norse and Egypt, and they went for Norse, which is great, and obviously it's worked out well for them, but I wonder if now they'd be saving it for the future. And we had Assassin's Creed Origins, but...
There's a difference between mythology and just ancient and classical cultures.
Right.
Whereas I would like to see them lean more into mythology and like gods, goddesses, like old stories, old songs. Like Japan has so many yokai. Like one is just a giant foot that crashes into your house and you're forced to wash it. And it talks. It's a demon. Like I want to see more of that. I think it's a Monty Python
sketch. Yeah.
Yeah, like we've seen so many like samurai, and like we all know like the historical figures. Maybe not all of us, but like we know the big ones. And like I want more like actual mythology,
like Okami style stuff.
Yeah. Give me more of that, and then like explain it to me also.
Yeah.
There's also like if you remember Yearwalk, that early Simogo game, was based on like, I think it was Swedish folklore. I would love to see more of that stuff of just like, here's like a bunch of folklore of urban legends that people have come up with over the years. And like, cause I love Yearwalk. So I'd love to see more stuff of like, here's an obscure monster that you didn't know from like, that was used to scare kids into not going outside or whatever.
Do you think that like Kentucky Road Zero, does that count as like tapping into American folklore,
a little bit, yeah.
or is that all just kind of
some
original?
Of it there, but it's like, I think part of it is I would love to see what other countries came up with in terms of like here's basically like the like the Egyptian version of Sasquatch versus like the sun god, right? Like I would love to see like more kind of
Smash Bros, but with gods.
Exactly.
Well, that's Smite, really, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're all with you, Serial. We want to see the Egyptian version of Sasquatch. Why are they so scared to show it to us? Come on,
it's
we
like
think
that
it's
common
cool.
phrase that people always use. Who is the Sasquatch of the Egyptians?
He's probably less hairy. It's just like a big guy, I guess, because it's very hot there.
Tall man.
Yeah, he's known as a tall man. Eric writes in, strangely enough, and says, hey, MinnMax crew, if you had the chance, no cost involved, technology is even better than where we are today for the sake of comfort, what would you rather do? Go to space or go to the bottom of the deepest ocean?
Space. The
Yes,
ocean's
space.
too scary.
Compared to space, where human beings are not supposed to be?
Space, like you get like some cool views. Like people always talk about like seeing the Earth from space and how like beautiful it is, and like you haven't really like felt your existence until you've seen the Earth from space.
Are you Bezoing us right now, Janet?
A little bit. I get it. Every space trip gets free Amazon Prime for 6 months or something.
Okay, yeah, sub on Twitch.
I would, even though it's been tainted by recent events, I would still like to go to space.
Space is so cool.
Space has been tainted
cool.
because a couple of
billionaires.
Like that's what you're driving to space? I guess they're just letting anybody up here. The bourgeoisie.
It is weird to think. I mean, I guess we're not supposed to be in the deepest ocean either, but just like there's something cool about going to space because, I'm not saying devoid of any higher power stuff. I'm just saying it's such a weird idea. The idea of like, we're just going to keep sending ourselves into outer space, a place that by no right should we be in. It is not designed in any way to sustain us, but it's like, screw you. You know what I'm talking about, guys? Like, if we just, it's just weird
it's like
that
Australia,
we go to space.
it's like we're not supposed to be here.
It is the Australia of the galaxy. Yeah, I think I'm with you.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
Thanks. So, yeah, I mean, deep ocean, it seems cool. I know there's cool stuff down there, but compared to space, yeah, I don't think you're
I guess the ocean has like the hope of maybe there's like a crazy, maybe it's like Subnautica, like IRL or something.
Like Atlantis,
yeah.
What if going deep enough into the ocean sends you to space?
Sorry,
there's a wormhole.
Sorry, we're
If you
trying
played Outer Wilds, you would know that, Serial.
Yeah. This is a serious podcast. We're trying to have a serious conversation here, Serial. I'm not on board for these abstract concepts that you're throwing out there.
It's real.
Egyptian Sasquatch is there. Trust me. Adam writes in and he says, hey, Ben and crew, not a question, but I just wanted to back you up, Ben, and let you know that you're 100% in the right about not wanting subtitles or captions on while you watch things. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking you're the crazy one.
Ben, you can't
write in yourself to these questions and then pick your own question.
All right. So wait for the switch. Adam, thank you for being so generous to me and writing in to tell me that I'm a genius. Turns out I was completely in the wrong here. We had a Twitter poll after the last episode of the podcast asking just simply captions or no captions. 67.8% said captions, which blew my mind. I am in the very strong minority here, so...
But then you felt compelled to pick the email that was like...
I know. Well, I wanted to have a twist. Podcasts are all about a series of reversals, Surreal.
Turnabout podcast. That's us.
That's right. Yeah, like the podcast started out bad. Now it's good. It's always like a little flip.
The first 6 hours of this podcast are pretty good as long as you don't assume it's supposed to be the tutorial.
Right,
it's not a tutorial. It's a story.
Hey, Interata writes in, hey, MinnMax, everything going on with Abandoned regarding its marketing, the teaser they put on Twitter being the same in the app, the constant trailer delays, etc., as well as hearing that they have also hyped up other games only for them not to come out, has me wondering, when does Sony need to get involved and come out and say something about this game? So if you don't recall, if you didn't follow this saga, I think we touched on it briefly in the podcast, but there's this game coming out called Abandoned, which is an indie game that Sony was showing off. Like they show off a bunch of indie games on the PlayStation blog and all that stuff. And conspiracy theorists / sleuths on the internet have tried connecting it to Kojima and are convinced that it's the next Kojima game. And then the Abandoned developers keep going out there and saying, we're not related to Kojima. This is our own little indie game. but then whoever's on that social media team keeps very much playing into the tease that they are Kojima. I don't know, Sarah, Surreal, Janet, what do they do? When does Sony have to get involved? Should they, just to shut this crap down?
I don't think Sony is going to get involved, and I don't think that it's in their best interest to.
Yeah.
Because I think it's not, if you put out a statement that says like, hey, this game that we promoted recently has no involvement from Hideo Kojima. Like even if that's the case, like which totally could still be true, and I'm leaning that way.
100% is true. Yeah,
it is still to some degree, even if what they're saying is true, it is still to some degree throwing that developer under a bus of just like it still kind of says like, oh well, then like it is their fault. And then like even if this is all true and they are just trying to kind of settle the record, that in some way I think would still make indie developers kind of be less interested in working with Sony, of like something like Abandoned could happen to us. But like it's like kind of a weird situation for Sony to be in, because then if they don't say anything, then it's like Sony's being silent, which means they agree that it's Kojima or whatever, that they don't want to say anything to spoil the surprise. So it is kind of a bad situation for Sony. But I do think it's not in their best interest to comment on it at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much Kojima himself has said. I don't think he made a statement saying like, hey, I am not involved in this game. Because I feel like if something's going to shut it down, I don't think that would. But that would be like, hey, I just want to go out. Like Kojima needs to swivel that chair around and say, hey, guys, no, but seriously, this ain't me.
Yeah, I feel. I'm trying to remember if he has mentioned it. Maybe I just haven't seen it. He's too busy tweeting. He's been tweeting important stuff like "miss them" with a picture of J.J. Abrams and Oscar Isaac. So he's pretty busy on Twitter. He doesn't have the time to mention this. Do you think sincerely any other indie team out there is trying to now seed their game with Kojima hints? Because we have talked about Abandoned more this year in the gaming space than anybody could have predicted. Like, it is absurd that this game's now literally going to get reviewed by outlets when there's no chance it would have probably gotten 5% of the reviews if it hadn't have blown up in this way. Like, is it a marketing strategy now from weird indie teams of just to try and, I don't know, not mislead people, but hey, internet people, if you want to try and put some things together and that gets us attention, no harm done.
I think it totally would have. I mean, obviously we can't live in that alternate world where like none of the drama happens and what the reviews look like, but I think it totally would have gotten reviewed by still a lot of big outlets. I think simply because it's PlayStation 5 exclusive, at least timed exclusive. Yeah. And ain't nothing out here. You look at that PlayStation lineup, it's looking thin. So I think it definitely would have 100% gotten reviewed. Now, I do think it's being talked about more than it would have been. But again, like, there was that old saying, like, all press is good press. Right. But then there's the newer saying, no, it's not. I can think of 8 million forums. Activision Blizzard, that's not good press. Right. It's not. Yeah. That point blank period. You know, like, I think the reason we're talking about it is not like, oh, I wonder what it, I mean, some people were like, I wonder what it is. But more so, it's like, man, this is a team that is, you know, I'm sorry to say, seemingly incapable of getting out the things that they say they're going to get out on the time that they're going to get it out in. And even though a lot of studios are known for like delays and things, and we kind of accept them as part of the industry, like when you can't put out your own trailer, how are you going to get the game made? Like, you know, like, and we're watching it because it's like a train wreck happening in slow motion that you can then rewind and watch again. And yeah, it's a mess.
I can't imagine anyone's jumping at the bit to like do that, to follow in the especially since like when I like at this point I don't know how, like, I can't imagine everyone's like, oh man, I can't wait for Abandoned because of all this controversy. I think everyone's just kind of like, I feel like most people at this point are either mad at if it is a Kojima game, they're mad at them for not like getting that out there and just announcing it. Right. And if you don't think it's a Kojima game, then you're just kind of tired of hearing about it. So it's like there's no one, like, you're not getting a lot of positive press out of this. And I think now is because like your engagement with, it's not like I have to buy this game in order to find out one way or the other. You'll know one way or the other whether or not this is a Kojima game without having to pay them money for it. So it's like, it's not going to help them in the long run.
Yeah. We should stop talking about it unless the game's good. Hey, Crab Palace writes in and says, when I was just a little boy, I read about the PlayStation Link cable, which allowed you to connect 2 PlayStations together. It was so you could play multiplayer on 2 separate TVs instead of split screen. but I thought it would let you combine games if you put different games in each PlayStation. So at school the next day, I raised my hand and proudly told the teacher that if my mom bought me this device, I could play as Spider-Man and Spyro. Immediately, my friend Giorgio told me that if I tried that, it would explode. Then he asked, when you were a kid, what did you get wrong about games and or the world?
Oh, but it's and or the world.
Yeah, I guess that's
one or the other, really.
Yeah.
We need Mythbusters on this whole combining games thing.
That's true. Mythology Busters. Yeah, no, does anybody have a good example of like gaming wise something they didn't understand?
This is really dumb.
Yep.
But when I was a very small child, I think it was either me or one of my brothers. It's such an old story that I feel like I'm blurring it, but like I think one of us broke a Super Nintendo because they put food in it because they wanted to see it on the screen. They wanted to see the Jello or whatever they put. I think it was either Jello or like chopped hot dogs or something. And so they put.
You would think you'd go with a more cartridge-based food, like a waffle.
No,
yeah, naturally the obvious food you'd plug into a Super Nintendo, a waffle. Did it work though?
Oh yeah. I thought it meant something when you got things right was the question. So.
Right. Yeah, let us know in the comments what you think the most cartridge-like food. Like, if you had to put food in a Super Nintendo, what would you put in there? Because waffle is very good. Like, square waffle. I don't think you can top that. It'd be very satisfying to mush it down in there. Kyle Silva then replied to Crab Palace's question. I'm trying to understand this. Kyle says, I made a similar mistake as a kid. There was an ad for the Lilo and Stitch DVD board game, which is coined as combining the Lilo and Stitch movie with a board game. But stupid me thought they meant combining the Lilo and Stitch DVD with the Stitch, ! The movie DVD. So I put both DVDs in at once, hoping to be playing a cool game. But instead, I just jammed our DVD player.
That's horrible. Oh, I remembered one.
Yeah.
When the PSP first came out, and I saw UMDs for the first time, I wasn't sure how they worked because I guess I never saw any of the marketing material where you just put it in like the whole way, which I guess this is weird, but if you're like, I don't know, younger or just didn't have a PSP and didn't see what a UMD is, it's like in these little cases, like these white cases, but you put the whole thing in there. And I was like, do I open this?
Janet,
does anyone know if I open this?
Totally.
And then I started opening it. I'm like, it's too much resistance. And I'm like, screw it. Oh, and then when I first got my Switch, which this is a very new modern story, I put the straps on backwards in my haste the day I got it. And then I had to look up on YouTube how to remove Joy-Con straps from opposite. And then I looked at some random video from Australia because they had the console a few hours before me. And they're like, this is how you do it. And yeah, I haven't made the mistake since.
I'm totally with you. It's surprisingly hard to get those things back off if you put them on the wrong way.
Get a little butter knife and then you just have to, it feels like you're going to break it, but you just kind of can get it off there. But
yeah, I made that stupid mistake, but I did it when I was like 6 or something with the Switch. So yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yep. King Kate Smith, Kate Sith, rather, or Kiet Shathi, however you're supposed to pronounce that silly name, writes in and says, Serial, do you know who Kate Sith is?
The Final Fantasy character?
Okay, very good, very good. Anyways, hello, MinnMax crew. I hope this question finds you all well. But enough with the silly pleasantries. We're all here with one thing on our mind, food. In the spirit of the earlier Pokemon discussion, we'll be playing Pokeberry or Human Berry. Which of these berries are from the Pokemon world or from our lame non-Pokemon world, which I'm calling the human world? Okay. The person with the most points is the Lord of all berries in the multiverse. Oh my God. All right,
Ooh.
Sarah, look alive.
Yeah.
I
think I can actually do this one.
Hear this?
I'm very confident.
Good luck. All right, which is the Pokemon berry, Sarah? Citrus berry or gooseberry?
Citrus berries, Pokemon berry.
Correct. Gooseberry's real, of course. Surreal. Chokeberry or Magoberry? Which is the Pokemon berry?
Magoberry?
Correct. Maybe it's Magoberry. I don't know, but God, my stomach's rumbling just thinking about a good old-fashioned chokeberry right now. Okay, Janet. Lingonberry or Aguavberry?
Lingonberry is the Pokemon one?
Incorrect.
God,
Oh,
I
Janet,
can't stand it here sometimes.
you gotta get a
really can't.
lingonberry.
Whenever two of you get it right and then it goes to me, like the pressure is insurmountable.
I know, that's tough. You gotta put
I'm mad too because just keep going. Just keep going.
At some point you need to eat a waffle with a bunch of lingonberries on it, Janet. You will not regret it.
I'm so sorry. I'm so salty. All right. I did the
That's fine.
The
It's fine. Janet, look,
trees and the berries.
everybody gets stuff wrong. Everybody gets stuff wrong.
The hours were wasted.
Everybody gets stuff wrong. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, Sarah.
What are they paying me for?
Yeah.
Black currants or blueberry?
Blueberry's the Pokemon one.
Correct. All right.
Yeah.
All right, Suriel, bring it home. Moringa berry or elderberry?
Moringa berry?
Is Pokemon?
Yeah.
Correct. Way to go. All right. And we're not counting who got some right and who got some wrong. We're all
Just keep
winners
going with the
here.
show. It's fine.
No one can know. We don't
No
know.
one can know.
We'll edit it in post.
That's right. All right. What do y'all like for question of the week? What stands out?
I like the one where I get the prize. Can I have the prize if I choose the right?
I'm sorry, that was only for
That was
Sarah.
for me specifically. That was for me specifically.
Yeah. Sarah, by the way, it would be a really ballsy move if you just went to the mat insisting that we should give that person question of the week.
Absolutely should.
No way in hell.
You can write in agreeing with Ben. I think people can write in asking for the prize. I think those are the same thing.
I
Wild
can't
West
Right in
out here.
agreeing with Sarah. Ben's not going to choose that email.
I don't know what you're talking about, Suriel. Everyone's welcome to write in and agree with me if they want. Let's see. I like the mythology one. I liked the shrine talk. Janet, anything stand out for you?
I did enjoy the berries that made me all bitter, and I liked the I like the ones you mentioned just because I think those are the ones we had the longest conversations on.
Yeah, I feel like mythology was surprisingly.
Mythologies, I like that one.
Are we feeling confident in mythology? All right, there we go. That's Tom Blackburn. Congratulations. You win I Am 8-Bit's wonderful prize of the Creature in the Well game for Nintendo Switch. And also, Sarah does not win it. So it's kind of it's a win-win situation.
We all gotta do the Smash
Not why
Bros.
you needed to
clap.
point that out, but okay.
Hey, anyways, now it's time for something we like to call Get a Load of This. Janet, zero pressure since you didn't know you were going to be on this podcast until like an hour ago. But do you have anything? You have something for Get a Load of This? All right, go for it.
Get a load of this. This isn't necessarily new, but it was finished like 2 months ago, barely, on YouTube. There is the Animal Crossing Hamilton crossover where someone made all of Hamilton and Animal Crossing.
Oh my God.
And it reached completion 2 months ago. And I don't know how almost all the videos are still available despite it being totally the thing Nintendo would take down. Or the Hamilton people. Either way, like it's double IP issues, but it's still there. It's under the YouTube channel GK Animations. And it's incredibly well made. I feel like even if you don't like Hamilton, it's just something about it's so amusing to watch. Like I love it. It really captures it. They do some pretty heavy edits too. Like they sometimes add in like a little bit of extra stuff. It's very entertaining.
Is it like, does it sound like KK Slider singing these songs?
No, that'd be funny too. No, it's the regular music and everything. But they have like different characters. Like, and this is, Alexander Hamilton. And then he shows up and some of them are played by the villagers and some of them are played by like the people, Animal Crossing people. But I think it's mostly all made in the, Harv's Island where you can throw all the stuff together. So they have things like Angelica writing and they put the little, it's interesting to see how creative they get with the items, the limited items you do have in Animal Crossing to try to recreate the scenes that are being described in the musical. Except in this one, Hamilton has the affair with Froggy Chair, which I think is a very bold move.
Froggy Chair is not an Animal Crossing.
Impossible.
Oh, that's right. Great point.
It's impossible.
Fact
However,
check.
I don't agree with their choice of, they made Raymond Hamilton, and I feel like he's more of a burr, so like,
okay. All right.
He's
that's
very
like
burr,
my one critique was the casting could have been a little bit better.
Yeah, I get it. Hey, get a load of this. There's a YouTube channel that I talked about before. It's called Harada's Bar. The producer of Tekken, Harada, and he's had a rotating series of guests. He had Ken Kutaragi, the father of the PlayStation. He's a bunch of great guests, and it's just a laid-back, cool show. Used to be in the bar. Now I guess it's just in like Harada's house, I'd imagine, with COVID picking up over there. But his last guest is the best yet, which is Sakurai. The creator of Smash Brothers was on Harada's show. And they're going to roll out more of this interview, but the first video is just like 25 minutes of those two just sitting around. It's a little uncomfortable in the room, but it's like you rarely see just a loose video interview with the creator of Smash Brothers. And he reveals that he doesn't drink water because it makes him physically sick. He says if he drinks a glass of water, it makes him sick, so he only drinks Coke Zero, which is...
Not the free ad.
It's just insane. Like, I cannot imagine. How do you not, like, try and test out maybe some different type of filtered water would work? But if it works for the creator of Smash Brothers, it can work for us. So from here on out, everybody at MinnMax will not be drinking water. We're Coke Zero or bust, washing our teeth and brushing our teeth, I should say, in Coke Zero, washing our clothes in Coke Zero. Easy, Cereal. You've had too much Coke Zero today.
Coke Zero.
Also, it's fun in that, they talk a lot about kind of Sakurai being a mysterious figure, and Harada basically says everybody in the Japanese industry tells a lot of stories about old creators and good drunken stories about this developer, yada, 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 but no one really knows anything about Sakurai. He's just like a black box, even in the game development circle in Japan, which is fascinating. And then Sakurai at some point... Good. Yeah. And then at some point, Sakurai says that he doesn't want his face used for memes because they're taking everything out of context. So stop making Sakurai memes, everybody, please.
Yeah, I think that'll get him to stop.
Yeah, I think so. Cereal, you got something?
Yeah, get a load of this. This is maybe less fun, but Twitter user JakeFriend, who goes by the handle JakeFriend_dev, posted a very interesting thread about indie game contracts and how he had to turn one down that would have been pretty profitable because it had basically a ton of clauses that seemed really exploitative. So things like, they're going to they'd give him an advance, but basically when the game came out, he wouldn't get any revenue from the game until the people who gave him the money basically got all of their money back first, and how like a lot of that stuff is weighed so heavily against him that, there are all these breaches of contract that if he breaks contract in any way would basically say like, we take your game away from you, we're gonna have someone else develop it, and you have to pay for it, which is ridiculous. And then if there are no clauses in there, where if the company breaks contract, there's really no clause in there about what would happen to them. So it's very inside baseball, but I think it's the kind of thing that if you're interested at all in game development to see what these contracts are like, I think it's a fascinating that I think people should read for sure.
Yeah, it's nice. I like the openness of people just being like, hey, here's the details of this contract. Does this make sense to anybody else? Anybody else have this experience? It seems like a lot of developers are sharing those types of things, which is fun.
It's an interesting case where you do get to talk about stuff that would otherwise be confidential, but because he didn't sign it, he wasn't under NDA to talk. He could talk about the contract, right? Yeah,
for sure.
So
that's cool. Yeah, there's links below for all this good stuff. Sarah, you got something?
Get a load of this.
Oh.
There is now an Among Us mode in Fortnite, not with partnership with Among Us. Also, Wendy's has an official Discord, and God has forsaken us.
Is it public, or do you have to like get a Frosty to get access to it or something?
It's a gaming Discord. She has it. I'm in it right now, actually. I joined. She's got a gaming headset.
Oh boy. Is it
like Wendy? The Wendy? What is she?
The Wendy.
What's she
streams on Twitch. She's playing Genshin Impact.
Is it like a VTuber?
That tracks.
No, I looked at it and nobody talks. It's just gameplay.
That's so stupid. But honestly, if you were on like the Wendy's social media team and you were a cool gamer, it's like, well, this is the best case scenario. Like, I just get to focus more on games and lean more into this angle. And apparently this corporation thinks that this is the way to market fast food these days. So it works out well for them. Weird deal. Okay, that's cool. Wait, what was the first thing you mentioned again, Sarah?
Fortnite has a new game mode, which is a direct rip from Among Us, even though they had no previous conversations. It's not affiliated with Among Us, the game, but there is a bridge, there is a deck, there are tasks, and there is an imposter, it's one thing to say it's a ripoff of Mafia, but there's literally a ship in the sky. And you play Among Us in Fortnite. Right.
And it seems like the developers of Among Us are getting out there on Twitter like, okay, Epic, all right, I guess we can't stop you, but a little poor taste. But, I mean, that's what Fortnite does well. I'm trying to remember how much PUBG messaged back when the Battle Royale first started blowing up. Do you remember, Cereal? Did PUBG ever have any messaging of like, hey, cool it over there, Epic? Stop just stealing our good game modes?
Yeah, I don't remember.
It was kind of late into PUBG's shelf life?
This is,
maybe like a
little
year.
bit, right? Like,
I definitely remember hearing about it in the same year. I think PUBG was early in 2017, and then Fortnite was like maybe September, October of that year.
I think that sounds about right. Yeah. So fun times for everybody. We also have a Discord channel. Wendy isn't in there, but it's really cool. You get access to it if you support us on Patreon. And there's a channel where people share little tidbits they learned. Get a load of this. Mike Lynch shared one, which is from Reddit. The Reddit just shower thoughts. And if everyone just wants to like sit back and chill and just think about this for a bit, like Surreal, if you could look more chill when I tell you this one, I'd appreciate it. No, like really, like I need you to like relax. No, not puffing out your cheeks. Like just look relaxed. Yeah, okay, that's it. You got it. Okay, yep. Get a load of this. When people talk about traveling to the past, they worry about radically changing the present by doing something small. But barely anyone in the present really thinks that they can radically change the future by doing something small. There you go, everybody. Something weird to think about. Thank you, Mike Lynch, for posting that weird thing, and get a load of this. All right. That's it for the show. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. Thanks to everybody who has continued to donate to our charity drive for Hopewell Music in North Minneapolis to give free music lessons to these kids. As of last week, Hopewell reached out and they said, hey, you and your community has raised enough money for 9 full scholarships and instrument rentals for kids in North Minneapolis here. And we've continued to grow beyond that. So if you want to donate to Hopewell Music, you can go to givemn.org/crossfade. There'll be a link in the description. Givemn.org/crossfade. Last week, I guess I won't fully out them. They wanted to leave it a little anonymous, but we had the biggest donation I've ever seen in any charity drive we've ever done. And it just melted my soul. It was so unbelievably sweet and generous. So thanks everybody who's put us well above our goal for the Crossfade charity drive for Hopewell Music, but we can keep going because it's all for a good cause. Let's see. Janet, would you like to plug anything?
Yeah, actually, the first and only thing I can think of is I am going to be featured in a video game journal. Let me make sure I grab all like the link and the name. God, I wish I didn't tweet so much. It takes so long to scroll down. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So it's like from Lost and Cult, and they do the series is called Lock On. This is volume 2 of their journal. It was like a Kickstarter thing that they promoted like yesterday, and it's already funded now. So I'm going to be writing a retrospective on Jak and Daxter for the 20th anniversary of the game. Nice. So if you're interested, go as soon as you hear this, because there's 13 days, I think, left in the project, and some of the elements are selling out. But if you look on Kickstarter, you can just search Lock On Volume 2 Gaming Journal. That should be good enough. I also have it like on my Twitter. Maybe I'll pin it or something just to make it easier for folks. But yeah, it's going to be really fun. And I don't have Volume 1 super close to me, but it's very like artsy. Like it has crazy cool art and like interesting layout design to kind of feed into like the artsiness of it. And it's like super dense too. And they have like a hardcover issue that's like extra pages and stuff. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I think you'd think this is pretty cool looking. So give it a glance. And if you're interested, go ahead and back the project.
Cool. That sounds great. Sarah, what do you got going on?
You can follow me on Twitter at SarahPods or Twitch at SarahPods. We are actually streaming Okami today. Ooh. And I do give fun Japanese mythology facts while we play, even though the game doesn't really stick to the book, but that's okay. It's for fun anyways. That's
right. And then you're streaming on MinnMax's Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/MinnMax Show every Tuesday. Every Tuesday. Sweet. Do you know what you're going to be streaming next week?
Let me check.
Something good.
It was going to be more Road 96, but I don't know if I can handle that. So I guess I'll figure it out.
All right, we'll figure it out. Yeah, give us a follow on Twitch, everybody. We'd appreciate it. We also stream every Thursday, in addition to like New Show Plus, which is also every Tuesday. I'm going to be streaming this Thursday. I'll have a poll for folks in the community on Twitter here to try and figure out what I'm going to be streaming exactly. But give us a follow, and you can tune in and interact with us live. Sturriel, you got anything you want to plug, man?
I have an Axiom Verge 2 review going up at Polygon.
Oh, nice.
Or it is already up on Polygon, so you can read that. And Yeah, I think that's everything.
Cool. That sounds great. Thank you to everybody who supports us over on Patreon, especially everybody that supports us at the $50 tier, otherwise known as the Thank You Crew. So thank you to Fatal X-Blade YouTube channel, State of the Scene podcast, Joshua Bucy, Clemens Zobel, I Am 8-Bit, Zachary Pligge, Ludwig Roque, Andrew Uerkwitz, Andrew Vala, BeatenDownBrian, Best of the Rest podcast, Jawarhello, Mirko Arico-Torreno, Call Me By Your Game podcast, Mark Seliga, John Higby, PrettyGoodPrinting.com, Clint Farley, Drew Waranis, Steve Bamdad. Sturriel, do you know who's next?
Jesse Vitale?
Whoa. Did I already say them? Maybe I did. Where is Jesse Vitale? Anyways, the point is Starkiller's next, Logan Krause, Purebred number 6, Kris, Spider Dan, SlyckNic, SpiralInYourEyes, Preetham Yarlagadda, and Dan Villone. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate it. Be good, have fun. Let's go.